Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 313. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and talented creator of Cicadapocalypse, Roger McMullan. Did I say that right? Cicadapocalypse? Did I?
Yep, Cicadapocalypse. Cicadas and apocalypse combined.
That's right. You're a member of the Kids Comic Unite group, which is, you're also a very active member of Kids Comic Unite group. You've actually done webinars, you've done videos there, and you have been on this educational journey of really wanting people to learn more about cicadas.
Yeah, periodical cicadas. So there's over 300 varieties of different cicadas throughout the world. There's some really cool ones in the Philippines, especially just really vibrant, like jade colors. But the periodical ones are very unique in that they come out in mass, and so their only survival strategy, they can't bite or sting or pinch or anything like that. There is literally just satiation, which means basically predators just eat their fill until they cannot eat anymore, and there's just so many that they still survive. And so it's a pretty cool, and so it's very unique to the East and Midwest, a little bit of the South of the United States. And so this is something that's been documented on BBC and lots of other like cool nature history or nature documentaries. And so pretty cool phenomena. I was there in DC area for Brood 10. It's written Brood X, but that is Roman numerals. And so I was there in 2004, and it was pretty fantastic. And so then 2 years ago, I went again. Our family went out. We're in Utah, and we went all the way out there to go see the cicadas.
Do you want to give people a bit of background on this? Because it's now, as of this recording, it's a imminent Kickstarter that's going to be coming soon.
Yeah. So Kickstarter is coming soon. It launches October 13th. So that may, depending on when this is all released, that may be already out. So go ahead and jump onto Kickstarter for Cicadapocalypse. And so the broods of cicadas, or kind of families of cicadas, it kind of depends on geographic areas of when they come out. They typically are underground for 13 or 17 years, depending on the brood. And if you just type into periodical cicada on Wikipedia, you'll find a big map that shows all the different years that they're out. But 2024 is a really big one. It's two different broods. It's 13-year cicadas, and that's more in the southern U.S. or southern half of that U.S. And then there is that's brood 19. And they're 13-year cicadas. And then there's also brood 13, which is also confusing because of 13. Anyways, it's a 17-year cicadas. They're in the northern part, and that's mainly like Chicago area. So it's Illinois, a little bit of Wisconsin, and Iowa there, and a little bit of Indiana. And so all those will come out all at the same time. And so it's like a pretty big geographic region that's coming out in 2024. And so for that, I'm really excited. Again, like in 2021, I made this Cicadas Don't Scream, and I actually have the book right here. We made this activity book for kids.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun. It teaches a lot of educational pieces through comics, but also through like there's worksheets. There's you can make like a little 3D cicada. There's a diorama you can cut out and make. So there's lots of really cool content there. I will post some of that on the website that you were just on. And so in Brood 10, which is 2 years ago, 2021, right. There was, we're in the Baltimore and DC area for Brood 10, and there was just, people are really excited and also a little bit weirded out. Some people are really scared of cicadas, and so I took that fear of cicadas with Cicadapocalypse. It's very like kind of a campy, like terror horror movie. And so taking that, so hopefully the people who are afraid will at least like look at it and be like, what? This is how I feel. And then from that, we kind of go through this story, and the spoiler alert, the squirrels that are kind of the protagonists learn that, oh wait, cicadas aren't terrifying. They're actually like great food for us, and blah, blah, blah. It's not super heavy-handed of educational facts, but it does kind of review those facts at the end of the book. And so trying to take, I do have a little bit of educational background, and so trying to take that the excitement, the energy, excitement and nervousness of cicadas, and transferring that into kind of a positive experience
Right.
with them.
Where did your passion for cicadas originate from?
Yeah, so my dad collected bugs throughout or insects throughout my childhood, and I also kind of followed suit, always like turning over rocks. I remember like collecting entire jar-fulls of like crickets that we found underneath the thing. We had a praying mantis. We kept praying mantis for a while. So there's lots of just like fun, I think, exploration. Insects are like the largest. I mean, there's the most insects as far as animals go because they're usually at the bottom of the uh, food chain,
Mhm.
and so
Right.
so they're really worth learning more about. Like I said, like in 2004 when they came out that first time, I was just really amazed by just the quantity. Like you look at like a bush and there's like cicada shells all over the entire thing. Normally, if you are familiar with cicadas, the annual cicadas come out more like every year,
Okay.
and um, so those are out and about. You see the cicada shells, but it's usually like one, maybe two on a tree. And this is just like covers. There's just shells everywhere, and exuvae is the official name, and so like their exoskeleton.
Right.
So it's pretty cool, just the in mass of just how
Right.
many there are. I think.
And so you mentioned too that there are some annual cicadas as well. Are those like those be like the like we call them up here like June bugs or something like that? Would those be considered part of the
Uh,
cicada family?
there are June bugs. June bugs are not the other closest one is like tree hoppers. I don't know
Okay.
if you've ever seen those, but June bugs are bigger. This is a podcast, but for those who are on the YouTube channel, you can see a little periodical cicada right here. Here's my hand. They're about an inch long, so they're
Okay.
pretty small, an inch and a half. So and then their wingspan is like 3 to 4 inches. For like the actual for normal size, these annual ones, they're more like 2 inches. They're a lot bigger, and they're a
Okay.
lot. They're both pretty loud, but I think for these guys, it's more just because they're in mass. They're louder.
No, but what was specific about cicadas that is it the fact that it's where people really love like the World Cup or like the Olympics because it doesn't happen every year. So there's some sort of, yeah, there's
So
something
some,
about the fact that it's something to look forward to and it's planned almost or, yeah.
yeah, I think like the fact that there's kind of an event
Right.
around it is pretty cool. Like I know, again, like I said, like when we were in Baltimore, there was a couple of different like cicada events. People who are making recipes. There's lots of artists capitalize on it. In Baltimore, there was this really cool cicada parade. They had made gigantic plaster of Paris cicadas, and the artists all painted them. So there's lots of just like hubbub. I
Yeah.
don't know for anyway, yeah. So there's just lots of things going around with like this thing
Right.
with cicadas.
Do you see, is there a community of like cicada travelers or people that kind of like almost like the Grateful Dead fans would just like travel with them? Is that, have you seen people that you recognize from going to different cicada events?
Yes, so I've gotten a little bit of a following with the Cicadas Don't Scream book. Not following, but like I've just made lots of really cool connections with like awesome people who are similarly nerdy.
Yeah.
And also there's even so on your point about the vacation, like cicada vacation, there are lots of or at least a handful of people, like the Washington Post when Brood 10 came out, they posted an article about these cicada vacationers, and
Cicadationers.
I don't remember how they some weird term like that. But yeah, so it's a thing. It's not just me being a weirdo. There's lots of other weirdos, and so and there's another fun post from the Washington Post about like again like all these surprise. Okay, so when I was trying to advertise the Cicadas Don't Scream book, I was surprised to find like multiple, not just one, cicada groups. Like there's like a science one. There's one where it's just like people who are like, I'm imitating a cicada, and then it'll just be like and just like scream. Because anyway, so it's just like silly, stupid, but also just awesome. And then there's like again like cicada art groups and whatever. So,
Right.
and people like cicadas too. It's not just like cool insect education, but also like, especially in Eastern culture, that like cicadas are kind of representative of like rebirth and resurrection and things like that. And so you can buy them in jade and buy them in metal, bronze, and things like that.
Right.
So there's a couple of cool books about that kind of that feel.
Right. So where did those number the number sequence? So where did the number sequence of that originate from?
Yeah, so there was a guy, and his name was Charles Lester Merlot, and I might be pronouncing that wrong, but basically he mapped all the cicadas through like Telegram and through like people just mailing in, and so he made a entire map of the U.S. and the areas that there are broods, and so there's 23 broods, and there are there's two that have gone extinct since he mapped those, and this was in 1907. And so since then we've kind of clung to those broods, and again, most of them are 17-year cicadas, but there are 4 of them that are 13-year cicadas. Again, one of those is extinct.
Okay.
And so super fascinating, super interesting. Yeah.
So what would make a cicada brood go extinct?
That is a great question. I think there's lots of speculation, and that's one of the things that like why I think these are understanding entomology and insects and things like that is so important. One of the things that has continued to, it's like anything that has to do with nature and all that is like people building on top of the cicada environments. They burrow underground, they grow there, and so if you pave it or whatever it is, then they can't get up. And so, or they can't get out in 17 years. And so there's that. Again, the other thing is like they're only predatory, or like their predators have full reign on their lives. And so again, their only like tactic is satiation. So just they eat their fill. And so I imagine that that's pretty high risk for being eaten easily.
Right.
So there's lots of speculation about like the why is it 17 years? Why is it 13 years? And part of that I think is, again, a lot of the speculation is that it's like a prime numbers, why the broods come out at different times, and that's all just some kind of evolutionary way to avoid going extinct.
How is it possible to find like a 17-year cicada like before they come out? Like how deep do they burrow? Like how does that work?
Yeah, totally possible. So you can, if you go if you're in an area that has them, and like, for example, if you saw brood 10 come out 2 years ago or whatever, if you dig in like a tree that had like tons of them climb up your tree, you could probably dig, it's about 6 to 8 inches, and they're there. They're just
in the root system?
Yeah, so that's how they feed. So they basically suck sap for 13 to 17 years.
They're alive, they just don't come out. They're still very much, they don't hibernate. They're still very much alive. They're just hanging out inside the tree roots.
Yeah, it's like a grub or any of those things. Like it's just like slowly growing, but it just takes a really stinking long time for these guys.
So Roger, talk to us a little bit about your upcoming Kickstarter. What are some of like the reward tiers that you have planned out for your backers?
Okay. Will do. Yeah, so I'm really excited about the Kickstarter because obviously you can get the book, you can get the digital version of the book, etc., etc. But because I'm a super nerd, one, I was really excited about it being in Chicago. Cicada nymphs kind of match the shape, more or less, of the Chicago bean, also known as cloud gate. So I modeled this after kind of the Chicago bean, trying to make it kind of that shape. So you can kind of see that here. And so you can buy that. That's one of the things that I've tried to feature. I'm excited about it because that's just a cool shape. And again, kind of that it's 3D printing. That's always fun. A lot of libraries allow you to do that. So that's one of the things. There's also a couple other things that I'm trying to put in there. What I'm most excited about is, aside from the book, is the Cicada Countdown subscription. And that is, so what that is basically, and part of the reason I'm launching now, the book won't come out until May, but which is around when the when the cicadas will emerge. The reason I'm trying to do it now is that you hopefully will, raise a couple of these things. But the Cicada Countdown subscription, basically in December, you'll receive your 3D model, you'll get a sticker, you'll get a piece of art and a letter, and also the digital copy of Cicadas Don't Scream. But what is really cool is I've commissioned 5 artists, really cool, talented artists, to have these 5 pieces of artwork. And so December, you'll get kind of like a big package to, if you have a holiday that's around there, you'll have at least that kickoff, and then it'll kind of tell you hey, there's more coming. So every month from that, you'll get mailed one of these art pieces, so a 5x7 of some cicada themed artwork, and then cool. And also a letter from a character in the book. Right. And so January, February, March, April, you'll get artwork and a letter, and then in May you'll get the book and the digital version of the book and probably another sticker. And so Lots of little pieces and parts, but it's pretty exciting. And again, the artists I picked are top tier. We've got a cicada portrait, we've got cicada arrangement art, and then a really adorable cicada from Sydney Hansen. And anyway, just lots of really fun stuff. I don't have it on my Instagram yet because I've been holding out. So I'm excited to do that, and I will hopefully have that all up soon to kind of tease that out. If you don't subscribe already, go to McMullenHouse.org. You can subscribe to my newsletter, and you'll get all the sneak preview stuff there too.
Right.
Newsletter.
With putting out this book and then your previous one about Cicadas Don't Scream, did you do this for you because you love cicadas so much, or did you do this because you wanted people to learn more about cicadas? Who's the audience for this?
Yes. The answer is yes. So it's one, I've always wanted to get into children's books. Bill Pete was one of my heroes. He's a children's book author, probably from bygone era. But he's one of my favorites, but there's lots of, I wanted to get into children's books. And so this was just kind of my intro of hey, you know what? Graphic novels are a really cool way to do this. Originally, the Cicadas Don't Scream book, I actually wanted to be this book, but I just didn't have the time to do it in time for Brew 10. And so I'm excited now. And we used to live in Chicago too, so it's a good mix.
Because of these cicadavationers, I guess they're called, are there people that are more prone to follow some broods than other broods, or are they just cicadas in general? It doesn't matter what brood it is, we'll just follow all of them.
Yes, there are the cicadavationers. That's much less common than people who are immediately impacted. So one of the things is that, again, you kind of have to follow that geographic push. So, wherever the brood is emerging, people are going to be more inclined to be interested in the book, in the cicadas, which, makes sense. And especially for children learning, it's a great opportunity to talk about the world around them. It's they're what the crap? Why are there tons of these cicada shells lining in this tree? What's going on? And so the hope is that the book or the activity book or all the resources on Cicadapocalypse.com kind of help answer those things and help satiate that curious mind.
And so you put this book together. You obviously wrote Cicadapocalypse. Were you also the illustrator as well?
Yep. Yeah. So I wrote and illustrated it. I do have someone who is helping with the coloring. He's awesome. Lorenzo Palumbo. He is a fantastic colorist, and he is basically, making all the dreams come true as far as the coloring and shading and things like that.
And so talk a little bit about the story. We kind of hint about it. It kind of follows a protagonist of 2 squirrels. So seeing the perspective of cicadas through these 2 squirrels. So what is the relationship between the squirrels, and how does that fit within the story of wanting the reader to learn more about cicadas?
Yeah, so they're 2 squirrels. They basically wake up in spring about when the cicadas emerge, and their brother and sister Fae is kind of a prepper, and she's really excited to start gathering nuts, acorns, things like that. If you know anything about harvest season, it's that's not going to happen until the fall. But she really wants to be prepared and be ready. And Cyrus is kind of a foodie. He's really driven by just eating and making stuff. And so he is collecting ferns and mushrooms and different things to kind of make some more food with. And so they kind of go back and forth. And then, you know, the Cicadapocalypse happens. All the cicadas start to emerge, and they're terrified of them. They think, you know, this is the end. And so Faye's excited because she gets to use all of her, you know, doomsday prepping stuff. And Cyrus is kind of annoyed and terrified. But then, you know, spoiler alert, they discover that you can eat them. They bump into one of Faye's prepper friends and realize, and she says, basically, hey, you can eat these. They're great. And they're like, what? We've been running from these. Oh, man. And they go through a little Bubba Gump series of you can fry them, you can boil them, you can whatever them. And so they're really excited, and then it kind of like fizzles out. They make peace with it, and the cicada kind of closes, and then cicada nymph kind of closes out and says like, hey, you know, here's all the things you learned along the way, and just wraps up the book.
Wow. And so how big is the book then, Roger?
So it's about 90 pages.
Wow,
just kind of finalizing those interior pages and stuff like that. So yeah, it's a pretty standard size or pretty common size for, you know, middle grade graphic novel.
So the story itself is around 8 to 12 years old. Is that true? Is that what it is?
Yep, that's right. 8 to 12, middle grade.
Yeah.
So yeah, late elementary school, middle school is a good age range. I haven't planned anything after this. This is kind of like the let's see how my sanity goes, especially, you know, kickstarting and everything like that. It's like you're the marketing, you're the book creator, you're the everything, and so we'll see how we go. And quite frankly, my family is like, you know what? I think we're ready to be done. I'm like, that's fair. I'm ready too. And so we'll see how. I have like a huge backlog of other ideas of also kind of STEM related or otherwise creative endeavors. And this is kind of like a sanity project. Like, you know, I have a full-time job. This is just something I do in my free time in the evenings, just like between, you know, bedtime and all the other activities and things like that we're juggling. So direct quotes from my kids are one that stand out as one is, Dad, I'm bored of cicadas. Another, again, they're, you know, they're 6 and 4, and the one's like, look, I'm Dad, I love cicadas. But then other times they'll come up and they're like one time I woke up and my son runs up to me and he says, Dad, Cicadapocalypse is going to be the best cicada book in the world. I'm like, wow, thanks. So it fluctuates our enthusiasm for cicadas. So
right. Is there any specific qualities about each brood that, say, like the amateur entomologist can tell by looking at them what brood they're from, or is that almost too hard to tell?
From broods, no, that's like purely geographic, and that's kind of arbitrary. Right. Again, that Marlet thing. But there are, confusingly, there's I think it's 7 species within all of the 23 broods. So the broods are kind of geographic. The species are different. And so there's some people commonly know it as like the pharaoh cicada, which again it's a species of periodical cicada. But they have like kind of stripes. If you turn them up on their backs, again, cicadas are super docile. They're usually just like chilling on like a little plant doing nothing. And they'll like maybe make some sounds if you grab them. But they'll, you know, and then if you look on their little bellies, you can see they usually have like the pharaoh ones have like orange stripes, and some of the other species are just black. Or anyway, there's some slightly variation of the markings. And
so I'm curious about it because you did talk earlier about some people will gather just and use like cicada shells for artwork. And you did mention that some people will also use them in recipes as well.
Yes. The cicada artwork is insane and really fun. People will like spray paint them. I've seen some more like they'll spray paint them gold and they'll use them for different things. There's a Asian singer. She actually like made kind of like a little crown in her hair There's people who will like piece them together and make like Mecha Godzilla or like crazy stuff like that. So those are all cool. But the eating, so I will. One thing about the eating is, and there's if you go to Amazon, there's like entire recipe books about eating with cicadas. I have not actually eaten them, surprisingly. There's
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so again, like with the satiation and like with the potential of of extinction, like I want them to prolong their lives, and humans don't need to be an additional part of that food chain. I have been very curious, and there's lots of like, again, like people say, oh, and also really quick, I will mention, and this is in the book too, but if you are allergic to shrimp, do not eat them because you'll have an allergic reaction. But yeah, so I have mixed feelings because it's like I'm very curious because people do eat them and supposedly they taste like shrimp, but also I'm like I also don't want to like encourage that again humans in the food chain thing.
Right.
But if you do, from what I've heard, they are best freshly molted. They kind of have like they're white and squishy, more like a larva, and once they harden after a couple of hours, they turn black and like you would normally see. And they're more crunchy and less appetizing then.
Right. Are there festivals where people are actually making cicada food as well?
Definitely, yeah. So people will fry them. There's often like a high end restaurants too. They'll start to source them and put them on their menu. I definitely expected that to see it in Chicago. They have a couple of different expos for food and stuff, but yeah, that was definitely a thing in Baltimore. And like if you look up cicada recipes, you'll find lots of YouTube videos and Amazon stuff.
So Roger, I'm really excited for the Kickstarter. So glad I've been able to sit down and talk to you about this. It's so important, as as we were saying earlier, about children being educated on the world around them, and just we are part of the world, and it's really important for us to know what's happening in the world. And congratulations on the book. I can't wait to sit down with our kiddos and check it out. And it's the first time that I wished I lived more south, just so I can enjoy the cicadas.
Yeah. No, I'm really excited. You can always be one of the cicada vacationers.
That's right.
So yeah, I'm really excited. I think there's definitely some huge opportunities there to educate and learn together. And again, like I'm trying to host a couple of different events in Chicago and other areas that are having these. I'm working with a couple of different people to make those things happen. And again, also having lots of content on the website, everything from like treasure hunts to again, like worksheets and different educational pieces on the website. So even if you don't purchase the book, I'll have lots of stuff, everything from like making cicada cupcakes to my son and I he's going to be a cicada nymph and I'm going to be a full cicada for Halloween. So lots of nerdy cicada themed things happening.
Right. Perfect. Well, great. So yeah, so definitely check it out. We'll link in the show notes on the Kickstarter page, and also put a link in the show notes as well on Roger's website. So perfect. Well, thank you so much, Roger. It's great talking to you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Barney, for having me on here. This is awesome. Pretty common.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
So where are you at? You're in Central Time?
So
That's right.
I'm in Utah. So
you're in Mountain Time. Oh, geez.
Yeah, Mountain. Yeah, so it's only like 6:30 here. So
Mountain Time is like totally like it's like the few people I've had on my show that are on Mountain Time. It's just like I feel so bad for Mountain Time people. It's because it's like everything's either like 2 hours late or just like 1 hour early, and you just can't really, nobody really thinks about Mountain Time when it comes to,
Yeah, it's especially bad for like socials because it's like by the time I'm awake and going and thinking about it, it's like, oh, the time has kind of already passed. Like that was like at 6 or 4 a.m. my time. So, but it's all good.
Well, yeah, but a part of me a part of me wishes I was like on the West Coast or even in Mountain Time, because all the East Coast folks are like, because when I did my Kickstarter, and I was talking about like I just can't, like, what was it? Yeah, we're gonna start recording at 10 p.m. I'm like, I got like 3 kids, like I'm in bed by 10. What do you mean now I have to stay up till midnight?